And hi there from Nick.
And hi from Martin.
And today we are going to assess, tell you the name of the property now. It is Richmond Hall Crescent in Sheffield. And this is probably a local, ex-local authority house on a hill, as is often the case with properties in Sheffield. And what we're doing today is we're doing a condition assessment which may have an addendum to it. So we've got the viewing tomorrow, but typically with hotly competed properties, and we think this one will be, by the way, it's just important to get the main assessment done out of the way as soon as possible so that everyone has time to consider the situation, and then we can get into it all, as it were. So anyway, let's share screen and we'll talk about it. The good thing about this property is it's in good enough condition to do a reasonable assessment of it based on what I see. And the first thing I see that's of interest is the different colored brick here. So I don't know if you noticed, but that's kind of dirty, that's clean. And that would be new brick. And I think this property has had a pretty extensive renovation in its life. Now, one way of checking that is looking at the street view and just seeing what we see here. So let's have a look at that. And we're interested in the roof, by the way. That is the most important thing. And here we are. So I think it's this one. And this has had a new roof as compared to this one. So this is clay tiles, quite an old roof, and actually it's clay tiles as well. But you can see here on this house, you can see a lot of the tiles have been replaced, but this one is clean. So I think it's the same roof, but maybe some of the tiles are compromised. And that mess on the roof, by the way, is just the lead or the rust and the copper, whatever, but essentially stuff coming down the roof. I'm not particularly concerned. And let's get back here. It's the next local authority house, I think. Do you know when it was built? It seems to be like 1950s, 60s, that kind of time. And the reason I say that is because the porches have these concrete things, and that's typical of that period.
It doesn't have data for this property. I'm checking around, but it should be between 50 and 66.
Yeah.
Or between 30 and 50s. I don't know.
Doubted just because of the portico, the porch area. This awning, it's a very 60s thing. Essentially, it's cast concrete and they just inserted it in and stuff. Anyway, moving on. The interior was given a massive makeover, probably in the late 80s, early 90s. And the reason I know this is because of the kitchen. So this kitchen is is a kind of early modern kitchen, I'll call it, gas hob, but this kind of finish is MDF, which is machine something fiberboard, but basically it's a routed board, and then they put a shrink wrap cellophane stuff over it, and that's how you get the effect. But like wrapping a car, you wrap this. People don't really like that very much. It's a bit economy, but it was a good thing in the 80s. And therefore, modern kitchens tend to have lacquered finish doors and so on, just because it gives a better finish.
I want to add that this property needs to replace the boiler because APC say that, and the APC is made 1 month ago. So I think
interesting.
The cost it will be a new boiler.
Right, and arguably you would say new gas hob, replace the gas hob with an induction one, because if you're renting it out, it's a much safer thing to do. We don't know if this actually works, this awning, whether it actually evacuates air. A lot of them don't, but in fact we can probably find out if we look at this. And yes, I think it might do, in fact, because it's It's facing out, so yeah, I think it probably does. That's good because a lot of them don't. All right, apart from the kitchen looking a bit dated, you could probably get away with it, or at least what you could do is redo the kitchen doors and put a modern lacquered door.
I want to add that this location don't demand that, so
okay, well then, sorry,
I will
kitchen,
just
you
I will
stay.
keep it as I will keep it as it is. Maybe just clean it, change, as you said, the boiler, and change the stove. I mean the
Yeah, to
yeah,
work on the
gas one.
fundamentals. So the other thing typical of the 90s and 80s was this canary yellow, which was a very Miami Vice color. Someday people will look back and they'll go, that warm gray that they used in the 2000s, oh, it's so dated looking. But periods have their fashions. Anyway, this needs redecoration, obviously. And that's not a big deal. It's got quite a good floor, actually. Good tiling. It's like real tiles, and it's good. So good. I can see here that the ceiling has your classic 80s, 90s Artex finished surface, which looks dated today, but do you change it? Probably not. You've got the carpet, which is probably a bit bare and probably original as well. Do you change that? Yes. Now, one thing that's a couple of things of what was that, Martin?
Yeah, you need to change the carpets, definitely.
Yeah. I think the electrics are probably okay. And the reason I say that is because the old telltale sign, if you've watched a few of these assessments, you'll know. The plug, if the plug is right down by the
floor.
I was going to say right by the floor, but by the why can't I think about it? The name for this thing, it'll come to me. Anyway, sorry, it's Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
we're marching on for you. The point is it's raised from the floor, and that means that it's been subject to more recent building regulations. These days, plugs are even higher off the ground. But what it means is the wiring was done when the renovation was done. And it's fairly consistent with a simple, with a theme, which is properties generally get a big makeover every 30, 40 years. And this would have gone from local authority ownership to private ownership. And during that time, they would have done the big makeover, I expect. Also, you've got this, which I think looks like a gas fire. You would just disengage that. If it's an economy property, you just either put an electric fire in there or turn off the gas one. If it's electric, fine, but certified. These things are a bit of a risk. Yes, I think the carpet does need changing, by the way. Nice conservatory, nicer than the usual, quite opaque ceiling, which is good. But again, the issue with conservatories are nice, too hot in summer, too cold in winter, but nice. Typical 1980s, 90s clamshell lavatory, pine, perfectly acceptable. It's in good decorative order. It's just probably worth upgrading. So that means getting rid of the wallpaper, repainting everything, not Miami colors, as it were. So remove the pinks and all of that, make it the light gray, and then it's more modern looking. This thing, it looks enormous, but it's probably not as big as it appears to be. I don't know what it is. It could be a boiler or an electric, like a consumer unit. I'm not sure.
Usually people make a storage under the staircase, but in this case they avoid it open.
It's quite deceptive because there's a wide angle lens here and everything looks bigger than it is. But so therefore this looks huge. By the way, these are skirting boards. Don't know why I didn't remember it before, but there you go. Friday afternoon, a little bit tired, in need of a run later. So carpets need updating. These are classic 90s doors, very lightweight, They're pressed together. They've got hollow interiors, pretty nasty, but they'll do. And overall, it feels to me like it's new carpets, painting, decorating, and that's about it. It doesn't really need an awful lot more. And when you're talking about that kind of renovation, plus the boiler, then you're in for about £10,000, I would say. You might replace the bath panel here with something less dated looking.
When
keep the bathroom suite.
Use our calculator for renovation, it gives me 9,850.
Yeah.
So around 10,000. Around, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
It feels about right, doesn't it? Yeah.
Maybe lower because this location don't demand so much, but the boiler is expensive, so yeah.
But nice garden. Yeah, lovely really if you like a garden. Yeah, very nice.
And if you have extension, like a sunny room.
A bit of rebuild there at some point in its life, but overall, I think it's rebuild, or it's just simply different brick. I don't know, but you can say as a general rule, these kind of houses were well built, these local authority properties. And by the way, that's not a line for an extension. That's just simply a cable hanging off the roof. Not very nicely done, but there it is. I like this house overall. I think it's shaping up well. Yeah. Oh, there's Mr. Uflet. Hi. All right, let's have a look at the crime and all of that loveliness. And we have our postcode locator, which saves everyone a lot of time. We'll start with the low-level stuff. We'll work our way back. It is very, 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 very rare that we have crime issues in an area because we pre-screen properties for this kind of thing. And thus, I'm not too worried about that. But anyway, it's taken a little moment to load. Let's have a look at the other stuff. Very quiet. Very, okay, less quiet. I don't quite know what's going on in that patch. Let's have like
you have one area where you have like a still social houses, but they are enough far away. They have different entrance. They not have connected road. They have connected road, but not really. So
yeah, it's quite patchy around here.
Yep, but the property is good. It's low crime. So.
Okay, now this will eventually do its thing. I don't know why it's being slow, but it'll get there. All right, in the meantime, let's look at the demographics. Now, the thing about demographics are areas don't really change that much. People change in areas. So if they are subsequently impoverished, they move out. If they make more money, they move out. And then people who kind of match the demographic of the area move in. And the only exception to that is if there's lots of new build. Is there lots of new build? Don't know. Really. My mapping is being a bit slow today.
It have, but not really around. I will show about the new build. It have one, but not really. It have one close by, but around in this area it have a lot, and I will show. But really next to property, like 20-30 meters, you don't have.
Okay, so demographically, it's lower end. It's a lot of DEs. So these are people who are signing on for social welfare. They're poor, basically. But there's quite a lot of C2, C1. So generally speaking, the way this works is if the capital growth is good, then there's a gradual migration upwards in the social scale. Beyond that, you can say that it is quite a mixed area culturally, but mostly people are English first language. That's good. It's relatively young. Fine. So it's a good mixed. It's not too. It's culturally integrated, I would say, and everyone speaks English. That's good. What's not good are certain areas where there's no cultural integration. English is not spoken as a first language predominantly, and these areas become very segmented from the rest of the population. The other thing I would say about this is it borders on an awful lot of local authority housing. So the further north you go, all of this is a whole tract of housing. That's not great. And it's also reflected in capital growth, by the way. So you can see here, zero growth recently. And overall, I would say this is an area that just hasn't really moved a great deal for a very long time. So it's an area that's pretty static demographically in this patch. But this area has done better, and the reason for this is the better demographics. So here we can see that prices have crept up over time. If you adjust for inflation, it is sorry, I'm just trying to work out where we're at with this overall. I would say we're slightly off the market high of 2007 if you adjust for inflation. And it's seen a lot of growth over the last few years. And if we zoom out a little bit further and we look at the overall growth story around the place, we look at S13, it's been very strong.
Yeah.
So this makes it one of the strongest growth areas in the country, I would say. And therefore, I think it's interesting. I think we'll see a lot more growth in the better parts of Sheffield generally, but one has to be careful with demographics here, because if one compromises with crime, for example, that's an issue. And there are patches where there's quite a lot going on. But overall, this little patch is fine. Okay, sorry about the lack of mapping. I don't know what's going on. Maybe Google Maps is being slow tonight. Don't know. I guess. Whatever. Over to you. And so Google the base maps we use, by the way, the mapping and the base maps we use in our system are from Google. Just
first, I will go with the location. Here is the property. This is the location. You have nice garden. It have some extension. It's 3 bedrooms. It have parking. On the street it doesn't have private, so as these properties, but basically you can make if you want to. As you can see, like this property is made. You just need to.
Yeah, but then there's no parking issue there anyway. It's quiet.
It's quiet and it's nice and so on. So
it's very quiet, isn't it?
Yeah.
How is it for location though?
Yeah, I will speak about that. So basically you have a new builds here, not really far away. And you can see they're still building something here.
That explains a lot of the capital growth around there, I would have thought.
And also when you unzoom, you will see new builds coming here, new builds coming here, some of new builds coming here. So basically in this area, a lot of is coming. This is the situation is just because the location is really close to the center, and that's why. So you have a lot of.
What's public transport time into town?
Yeah. What a car is 14 minutes. Transport 24. It's okay.
It's a bit around the houses and back with that bus route, but
yeah, but it's still okay.
Oh, I see. There's actually a bus route past the Asda. As well. That's good.
Yeah, it's a nice. So and I want to say that you have a lot of green space. You have a lot of green space. You have schools. The only issue is that the supermarket is a little bit far away. So going to supermarkets, it's.
If you say that, the Asda Supercenter or whatever it was, there was a massive store which was on Asda Sheffield Supercenter. That's on the bus route.
Yeah. And also it's
so it's close. It's good.
And this is also it's 8 minutes, and it's by walking is 18 minutes. But usually Google Maps say slow walking, so usually it's less than a mile, so you should arrive for 15 minutes. So basically the location that the issue is, the only one is the supermarket. Large supermarket is not that close, but it's still close. So
it's an okay location, I would say. It's just a quiet suburban area.
Yeah. So and about social house, this is still social house. You can see the houses who doesn't still have fans in between. But the properties here is isolated. It doesn't have really a connection with those, and they are not. As we see, the crime was up some displays here.
Yeah, well, and this highlights a point. Crime is so localized always. It's the most odd thing.
Yeah.
I think it's because people who do crime are probably either a bit lazy, so they just do crimes locally because then they don't have to walk so far to do crime, or I don't know what, but crime is weirdly localized.
Yeah, and you can see you have a lot of stores, small stores here on this Richmond Road.
Oh, that's good.
As well, yeah, you have a lot of small, and you have buses. So you don't have large supermarkets, but you have markets, bars, hot food, and so on.
Yeah, it's. I could see this location is making. I like it. It's a stronger location than I originally thought.
Yeah, and you
nice.
have
Lots of bus routes around as well.
Yeah, and you have a hotel here. So yeah, so basically it's good. It's and the schools, a lot of green space, a little forest here. So basically, yeah, it's a really nice look. Not the best location, but still good. About a year of build, I cannot.
Well, for big shops, you know, if you're doing a big grocery shop, you drive. If you're just doing like buying a pint of milk, you walk. And there are lots of stores nearby, close enough to walk. So
yeah, correct.
That's good.
Yeah, so EPC is the score 60, but as you can see, if you change the boiler, it will give you 8 score, so that will be 68 plus 1 score for the lighting, so you will be C. So
nice. So it can get EPCC relatively easily then.
Yes.
Nice.
A very low risk about river and the sea surface water, very low risk, and doesn't have any reservoir around. About the coal mining issues is there, but the property is based on this part here is my mouse, so it's far away. It's more very than good. Yeah. So basically no risk. I check on the. It still has some social houses, but not a lot, like one.
It's quite mixed, isn't it?
Yeah, no, not really. It's 10% in this patch. So all was purchased. Yes. So yeah. So basically, when you select, you can see 1, 2 houses, 3 houses, 4 houses, 5.
Yeah,
6,
it adds up.
From all.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense that this area has better growth than other little patches around because it's just better demographics and better, just nice quality housing and all of those things.
Yeah, you can see all of this is social house, but this all was, and it have private roads, so they're isolated. So as well here, this house is here as well. It's really nice area. About the comparables, I will just say this is the property next door, and this I will say this property, it was 2 beds in sale 130. Also on the same street, 3 bedrooms, 135 in 2021, 1 year ago. I don't know why. 2 years ago, 127. I don't know why. I think that. Oh yeah. Oh sorry. They're asking 140, which is okay. Okay. No, I was thinking they're asking 130. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, 140 is correct asking price. I was thinking they asked lower than they're supposed to. So yeah. For rent, let's go for the rent. I think rent will be 825. As you can see, this similar property, and you just want to show you what kind of condition you need for 825. But I don't think you need to do that much modern. And for 825, also you have this one. You can see you still have
this one. You're getting the space, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of footage in this one.
Yeah,
but this property, our specimen property, is nearly 100. It's what, 90 square meters or something.
Yeah, something.
It's quite big.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you can rent for 825 because until you purchase it, you renovate it to past maybe 6 months, so the rent will go up for sure. So it will rent 825 because in the past we was giving all the time minimal yield, and when the people purchase a property with us, at the end the rent will be 50 or 75 pounds per month more. So that's why I try to be more criticized and give the real numbers. So
good. All right. What do we for? Yeah.
So for selling, it's not the same type of property. I will go with the newest. $140, $195, as you can see, similar property, but I think that's too much. I think 150 will be the maximum. 155 maybe, because
yeah, I feel that too.
Because as you can see, 3 bedrooms 1 year ago, 135 at 10% with inflation, so that's 150. So that's the maximum what you can pay. 155. 153.5 with 10% inflation, because this is purchased in 2021.
Okay, well, let's do some numbers then, shall we?
Yeah, just like 135 by 1.1, so 148.5, so 150. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
my.
Well, I'm going to share my screen and we'll just do some calcs and all of that wonderful stuff. So we've changed our thing a little bit, calculator a little bit. All right, now let's take it from the top. So what are we saying for this? What is a worst case scenario, as it were? So we're saying to purchase for
155, I'd say, but that's too much, I think.
Okay, well, that's an aggressive. That's a punchy old price. Okay.
Because of the
renovation. I'll say 155 for the renovation. Will be complete paint and decorate plus a boiler.
10
is 10,000. Rent is what?
825.
Now we've got another new thing, which is like the way this works is we've got this property cycles. Markets work in cycles. We're in the middle of the boom phase, and in every boom phase, there ends a crash, as it were. So how much more will it go up? How much will it go down? And a way of looking at this is looking at the history of this area. So, for example, if you bought in 2006 and the market rose and it declined, how would you be doing? So, in other words, if in my view, we're 2 years away from a crash, and this would be 1 year from peak. So September 2007 was basically peak, and you can see from peak to fall 14%. So from 2005, which is probably about reasonable, so we're equivalent to 2005 or 2004, then in theory, based on the history of this area and the last property cycle, you would say you'd be 10-12% up. So let's just run some numbers and see what happens. So I think in this area, based on where we are now, where the market's going to go up, I would say you've got another 20% to go before the peak of the market. And I would say the crash will not be 15%, but I would say it'll be more in the region of 10% around here. So minus 10%, maybe 12%. Let's just double check and just see.
No, but I think the
what
price
it was historically. 14%. Yeah, I think that's about right, actually. So what that means is that at the other end of all of this horror, as it were, you'll be 8 grand up. However, that doesn't include inflation. So the reason you invest, if you're a sensible investor, the reason you get out of cash is because you're going to be losing 8% a year just from inflation for at least the next 4 or 5 years. And how do we know this? Well, it's a good idea to look back, to look forward. And in the previous period, which is very similar to now, the 1940s, there was just lots of inflation for a long period of time. And I would say on average, you're probably looking at 6% average inflation for at least 5 years. What does that mean for us? Well, 5, 6 is 30%. So in other words, if you're sitting on 100 grand of cash, your cash will be worth £70,000 in today's purchasing power terms. So anyway, I think this property makes sense on quite a lot of levels. I think it's good. All right, let's have a look at the condition, which is actually reasonably okay. It's fundamentally quite good. It just needs a general makeover. But the good thing is the makeover is such that it's 10 grand or whatever. It's enough to put a lot of owner occupiers off, because they would rather spend £10,000 on more deposit money than they can mortgage up more. So this is a really just a perfect property from this point of view. So I like it. And anyway, condition, I'm going to go 3.9 because it's basically sound. Location?
It's 4. It's for renting. It will be 4 to 2. I think, because it's not the best, but still good. Because it have a small shops around. So
Look, area?
I think it's 4, just because you have a lot of new builds, not really close, but you have still social houses, so it's good.
Crime, it's I'm going to give it a 3.8 because there's quite a lot of crime around, but it's not on the road, but it's around. Demographics, I would say it's on the lower end of the scale, really. I'm going to go 3.9. It's okay.
Yeah, but for this price range, depends for price range. For this price range, it's good. So
yeah.
If you want better if you want better demographic, you need to pay at least 200. So
I think capital growth is not red hot, but it's not overbought either. This is a stable capital growth story, and thus I'm going to give it a 3.9. I think there are places in the world where you will get more growth, but the paradigm is shifting now from what growth will I get to how will I survive a crash? How will this do in the crash? And I think it'll do okay. And I think it'll show significant growth in the meantime, and then some decline. But overall, if you buy now, I think you'll come out okay at the other end, as it were. So that's good. You won't be underwater. You'll be above water. You'll be in an asset which will not definitely, but probably go up above what you paid. Yield, Martin.
It's 4.3. It's good yield. With the worst scenario, 155 is go for, I guess, for 6, as I don't.
Okay.
So,
that gets a decent score. That is ranking quite high out of 99 of these assessments we've done. Yes. We've done a lot of assessments.
Yeah.
We've done a lot more, by the way. It's just that we set this thing up fairly recently, and we spend a lot of time doing these things. All right, should we just do a final summary then?
Yeah, it have 35 viewings booking. Monday latest is the afternoon. We still don't have viewer report, but we wanted to do assessment, so you will have your bearings to see do you want to offer or not.
Yeah.
So I think this property will go up to 155, but if you take it for 147, 148, something like this, it will be great.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting property. I'm kind of going off Manchester a little bit in some respects, because we do so many viewings, but we lose out on so many bidding wars because they turn into bidding wars and people just lose their minds, and you get these outrageous offers, and it's just ugh. And what I've noticed is of late that we do well when there's a compromise with a property. So we had an accepted offer the other day for a very nice semi-detached house. The compromise, a small back garden. The point is there has to be a compromise, and the trick is to find the right compromises with the property. Where things go terribly wrong with property investment is when people make the wrong compromises, like let's buy that house that's right beside the fish and chip shop, or beside the very noisy road or whatever it is. This property doesn't have many compromises. Arguably, the only compromise you're making is that it's in Sheffield, that it's a slightly less hot market than Manchester, that the local economy is less robust than Manchester. But it's better value and it's a relatively good part of the world. So overall, that's why it gets a decent ranking from us, because it is basically very sound. What's your final comment?
My final comment, I like it. I will not go crazy about this property, but as we see, it will have competition, and I think the maximum will be 155. If you take it for lower, even better deal. So it will rent nicely. It will be secure property and secure. Yeah, I like it. So I think it's safe investment. So
yeah, me too.
And it's not yield. So this property is more about yield and that type of house. It's safe investment, no risk, location good, good capital growth, great yield. So everything works with this property.
Yeah, and it's not dominated by investors as the Manchester market is, and people are not being insane, which is helpful. Now, there are lots of places in Manchester, by the way, which are great, just to say.
Yeah,
it's still my favorite city for investment. It's just there are other places like Sheffield, Doncaster, Crewe, kind of.
Yeah.
Places where people are still sane and they're not losing their minds trying to outbid each other for what is essentially mediocre real estate. And I guess my final comment is, as with all these things, it's very important to be objective and just look at what the property actually is, the kind of setup and stuff, and just take greed out of the equation. Just once you do that and it works, then it works, and let those greedy people fight it out over whatever they want to fight it out over. But you don't have to play that game. You just stay objective, look at the fundamentals, work off that. And the fundamentals are good for this property.
Yeah.
All right.
I like it.
Yeah. Thank you. And me too. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.